Hever Castle has stood on this site since 1270 AD, and during its illustrious history has been home to two English queens, Anne Boleyn and Anne of Cleves, both wives of Henry VIII. While the royal crown has long been a symbol of British rule, as Americans, we sometimes forget that we too have our own form of royalty with an illustrious and miraculous history of its own.
Cheryl, are you wearing
In 1968, Hosey Pruitt and his family ran a general store in Choctaw County, Mississippi, 8 miles from the nearest town. 11-year-old Cheryl began helping out as soon as she was old enough to push a broom.
Even though I was small, I took care of the customers, cleaned it up at the end of the day, sweeping it out, and that was just part of my job.
Yeah, you're getting to be cute as a little button. Did you know that?
You're kidding me, aren't you?
Everybody that came into the store was either family or friends. It's a very small community, and you love everybody, and everybody pretty much loves you. It's a very loving place to grow up.
Come on, guys, let's go!
On the afternoon of May 4th, 1968, Cheryl's 16-year-old sister, Paulette, was driving the family car into town to buy gardening supplies.
All right, there, you look real pretty.
When you live 8 miles outside of the nearest town of 2,000 people, anytime you're going toward town, you want to go. And so when my sister was ready to go, of course, I grabbed my little brother, who I'm always in charge of.
You be careful.
And we all just jumped in the car because it was something to do.
2 miles down the road, their car would run headfirst into an oncoming vehicle. All of the Pruitt children survived, but Cheryl's injuries left her in a full body cast. Paulette recalls the damage to Cheryl's face when it struck the windshield.
It was cut from her hairline to the top of her nose. That was the biggest one. Then she had a jagged one, really cut real bad here.
I couldn't stand to look in the mirror. I had scars all over my face.
All right, now.
You're gonna feel so much better.
I remember calling myself Frankenstein's bride for the whole summer.
Worse than that, she'd cracked her spine and severely fractured her left leg. Dr. James Booth treated her injuries.
How long is it gonna be?
It's gonna take some time, honey.
Oh, I've seen all kind of fractures, being a surgeon and treating trauma cases. It was a bad fracture, especially for an 11-year-old girl.
My left leg was so crushed that the top of my leg and the bottom of my leg lay flat together. The bone above my knee was pushed like an accordion and was crushed into thousands of pieces.
Will I ever walk again?
I don't know, honey. Got yourself a bad break here.
The doctors told me that I might not ever walk again, that they didn't know how they'd ever put it back together.
It's gonna take some time.
A little bit like Humpty Dumpty. Every day I was faced with, would I ever run, would I ever play, would I ever be normal like other little girls again?
I can't do this, Mama.
Well, what do you mean, sweetie? That looks beautiful.
I can't do it.
Her younger brother, Tim, remembers the despair his entire family felt over his sister's hopeless condition.
She was just so distraught over not knowing whether she was going to be all right.
Don't cry, baby. Don't cry.
And I do remember everyone crying a lot, being really upset.
A lot of times we'd all stand around and just cry together. What else can you do but cry and pray?
We'll be about ready for tune now.
Music had always brought the Pruitt family closer together. Each of them played an instrument and sang. But Cheryl, who played the piano, was now deprived even of that pleasure.
That was a very hard day to realize I can't get to the keyboard. And what will I do for months?
Surprise, surprise. What is it?
A simple gift became the answer to her prayers.
That's a beauty.
And so for hours upon end, every day, I would sit with this little lap organ right on my body cast, and I would play and play and play and sing.
Amazing grace. sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
I don't remember her being down a whole lot when there was music around her, because music seemed to just kind of lift her soul.
But now I see.
It made her bright, it made her happy, it made her joyful.
As long as I could play my music, I could find my happiness.
3 months after the accident, Cheryl visited the doctor's office. When the cast was finally removed, her doctor discovered that although the bone fragments had fused, her left leg was now a full 2 inches shorter than her right.
I was determined not to limp. It was very important to me that I try my best not to give in to the left side. My mom hemmed all my pants legs, one shorter than the other, so I wasn't quite so lopsided in the look. And I tried to stand with one of my heels raised as much as I could. They didn't give me an elevated shoe, but I elevated it myself.
As Cheryl moved into her teenage years, her handicap isolated her from her classmates.
I wanted to be like the other kids, and I tried to convince myself that I was. But I wasn't. I couldn't be a cheerleader. I had a short leg. It's very hard when you are the one that is totally different from everybody else. You are outside.
Music was the one area in which she had no peers, and her greatest joy was performing with her family.
I wasn't dependent on other people to fit in. It was up to me, and my music made an open door that nothing else had ever made for me before. And it made me fit in. It made me special. It made me different.
And still, she never stopped believing that one day her leg would be normal again.
I began to pray every day throughout the day for the Lord to heal me, for Him to make a way where there was no way.
And then, in 1974, Cheryl had an opportunity to visit a church service that featured a charismatic preacher.
It was in a big city. I'd driven over 2 hours to get there. It was very exciting to be there.
Cheryl joined several other people when the preacher called for anyone who wanted to be healed.
I just kind of fell back and laid on the floor, almost as if I went to sleep. And as I lay on the floor, my left leg just grew out to be the same length as my right, within just seconds.
When she arrived home late that night, Cheryl was ecstatic.
Papa, wake up! Wake up! Wake up! I'm healed! I'm healed! My legs, they're normal again! Look! Oh my God!
I jumped, I twirled, I danced, I hopped.
There was no containing her. I mean, she was just extremely happy. Extremely happy.
I got up against walls and so that your hips can't move.
Look, Kathleen! Oh, it is a miracle. It is. Look at that.
This was a miracle. Her leg growing out instantaneously was very much a miracle.
After 6 long years, Cheryl could walk normally again. And 5 years later, in 1979, the girl who doctors said might never walk again took her musical talents to Atlantic City, New Jersey for the walk of her life.
Here she is, our new Miss America, Cheryl Pruitt.
My winning Miss America was a miracle all in itself. Coming from Choctaw County, Mississippi, with over 100 stitches in your face, a short leg. So you don't go from there to become Miss America, except when God intervened.
I think God was there all the time. He worked with her all the time because it was a miracle that she has no scars and had no limp.
She had to overcome a lot more than most people realize to get where God put her. And I believe God put her there to show the world that He's still in the miracle business.
You cannot deny a miracle when you see it with your eyes. Your brain may still want to say it didn't happen, but you can't deny it when you're looking at it.
I neglected to mention that one of the queens who lived here, Anne Boleyn, was beheaded when she failed to produce a male heir to the throne. Well, luckily for Miss America, the wearing of her crown has never been quite so dangerous.